And plus, for our weather-focused stream tonight, if you watched our 6 o'clock newscast, you would have heard Symone say we are under a weather impact alert for this upcoming Tuesday, tracking some risk of severe weather. And tonight, we're here to break it all down for you.
Yeah, and since we're starting to get into the spring severe weather season, we're going to start to do a little bit more of these, especially when we have that enhanced risk or greater, which right now that is the case across some of central Arkansas. Now, we wanted to make it a little bit more casual tonight. We're going to do another one tomorrow. That'll just be me once we start to get within that 72-hour window. We start to get more of those short-term higher resolution model data, but right now this is just kind of covering our bases as to what we know right now.
And I did want to ask a few questions to start things off, because the big question a lot of people have is, when is it going to hit my area and what exactly can I expect? I know that's a little difficult because I saw the orange is covering like a big portion of the state.
And there is still some time and room for that to change. We're going to bring up the severe weather risk right now. Now you see that bullseye is kind of covering southeastern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, a good chunk of the state of Mississippi, and some of western Tennessee. Now I would not be surprised if by tomorrow, once we get to that day 3 outlook, some of that area of orange maybe shifts a little bit when it comes to the natural state, because some of that instability or that storm fuel, I have seen with some of the latest model data that it's going to be a little bit confined to some of southern and eastern Arkansas, but we can show you more of that here in a second. But as for right now, tonight at 7 o'clock on Saturday, the risk is going to be greatest felt across the eastern 2/3 of the state. This does include Pulaski County and the Little Rock Metro, Jefferson County, Pine Bluff, Garland County kind of sliced right in the middle of where we see that slight risk and that enhanced risk. But even if you're in that slight risk, you want to make sure you're weather aware, you're getting prepared for Tuesday, because all it takes is one storm to bring a tornado.
And I see a lot could be happening, possibly damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, or flooding.
Basically all modes of severe weather possible, and then we will see the opportunity for some heavy rain leading to flooding, which is going to be a concern as well. So here's more of that flood risk. Basically the same areas shaded in that enhanced risk or who's under the slight risk for flooding, with the westernmost third of the state under that marginal risk. But still throughout the day, we're going to start to see rain as early as Monday. So the ground already going to be saturated when we start to see some of those stronger storms with those heavy downpours on Tuesday. So just remember the phrase, turn around, don't drown, especially as you're going and coming from work and school on Tuesday. I think by Wednesday things will start to clear up a bit.
And when you mentioned work and school, you know, this is happening on a day where people are at work and school. Do you know what time that people should be aware of this?
So definitely more of an afternoon, early evening threat. It's likely going to be some rain when you're headed out on Tuesday morning, but I think the actual time frame where we'll see the concern for severe weather would be between maybe 12 and 6 o'clock in the afternoon and evening, with around the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hour being the highest threat. Now again, because some of that instability is limited, that is a good thing for us, but we're still going to have the moisture, we're still going to have the warm air, the high shear, where we can still see some of those damaging winds. Speaking of the winds, we're going to see some pretty gusty winds even in locations not seeing thunderstorms, because we're going to have that pressure gradient as that storm system is sweeping through. So the long and short of what I just said, Tuesday basically raining all day, but definitely want to make sure you're weather aware for the severe weather afternoon and early evening. I know 3 o'clock is around the time that kids are coming home from school. You know, they're either getting on the bus or you're sitting in that pickup line. So maybe just try to plan carefully around that. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. You know, if you're sitting in that school pickup line, the THV11 mobile app, a great resource to have, because if a warning is issued while you're out and about, you'll get that alert to your phone and you can try to take action.
It will definitely let you know. That's what it is very good for.
Yes, it is.
Just let me know millions of times.
So I do want to show a little bit more of the cape or the instability, because I've mentioned that a couple times now, and how right now, as it seems, that's going to kind of work in our favor. That along with the cloud cover. So this is Tuesday morning 6 a.m. when you're getting ready to head out for that morning commute. We've got these kind of yellowy tannish color going on for much of the state. This is kind of indicating a little bit of storm fuel, but honestly, when you have all of the other parameters set up for severe weather, all it takes is a little bit of storm fuel to get some strong, maybe even severe storms. But during this time frame, it's also going to be cloudy. We're also already going to be seeing rain, and we're not really expecting the worst of the severe weather until afternoon. So let's move this forward a little bit. By 12 o'clock, because I told you when you want to start to kind of be weather aware by 12 o'clock. If you're in northwest Arkansas, the instability not as high as, but across southern and southeastern Arkansas, where it's more of a tan versus kind of that yellowy cream, that's where it's getting a little bit higher. So locations like Stuttgart, Pine Bluff, down to El Dorado and Camden, you're going to have a little bit more storm fuel versus if you're in a Little Rock or Clinton or a Russellville. Now, as we continue ahead to 3 o'clock, that's really when we'll kind of see that main line of storms starting to move into central Arkansas, but the instability is going to be confined to those southernmost counties. So like Drew and Deshay counties, Ashley and Chico farther to our south will have a little bit more storm fuel compared to a Pulaski or Saline County. Again, we're still going to have the other parameters at play, so this doesn't necessarily mean we won't get a thunderstorm or a strong thunderstorm at that, but it's going to really be hard for those storms to get explosive when there's limited storm fuel and we've got those overcast skies, because it's looking like we're going to have pretty overcast skies as early as Monday, carrying us through Tuesday, which is good. That's kind of keeping that lid on so those storms don't bubble up and explode over.
I think I remember Tracy saying if the sun is shining, that's a bad thing.
If the sun is shining on a severe weather today, that's not really good news. So if we happen to get some breaks in the clouds, especially in locations like southeastern Arkansas that has a little bit more of that storm fuel, that's only going to help add on to the storm fuel. So think of it as if you got a pot of water boiling and it's about to boil over. If you put that lid on, it won't boil over like those clouds. But if you keep that lid off and you let it get hot enough, the stuff can start to boil over. Similar sense to with these storms. So the clouds, we're really rooting for the clouds on Tuesday to try to help keep the severe weather concerns at bay.
Good to know. And if we do get a watch or a warning, can you explain the difference? A lot of people get those two confused.
So let's bring up another kind of graphic we have to kind of explain the difference between a watch and a warning. So watches, no matter the type, are going to cover very large areas, multiple counties, and this will kind of go on for hours at a time. So you've seen watches issued, say, from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. In this case, maybe a 12 p.m. to 6 or 8 p.m. would be when we see a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch if one gets issued. Now, those warnings are a little more specific and detailed to your exact location. So that'll also last maybe 30, 45 minutes at a time. But the watch is saying, hey, the ingredients are there. Make sure you're on alert. And if you have that THV11 mobile app and that watch is issued, you'll still get that alert the same way you will the warning. But when the warning comes, that means you need to take action and get to safety. So this is a great time to make sure you're refreshed on that, especially as we're getting into those active months. You know, March, April, and May tend to give us the most tornadoes out of the year.
It's that time of year again.
It is, and I mean, we've been so excited for spring to get here, but you know, there is a light side and a dark side to spring. And the light side, of course, later sunsets, it's getting warmer, the flowers are blooming. But the dark side is, of course, we do have to contend with severe weather from time to time.
But that's why we're here to let you guys know ahead of it, so you're prepared, ready for Tuesday.
Yes, so kind of as I mentioned earlier, we'll start to see more of that high resolution data by tomorrow afternoon. So I'll get to show you more of the specific detail when we look at those model trends and future radar, but we can at least today look at some of that low resolution data, more of that long-term data. So kind of looking ahead to Tuesday morning, we're going to start this at Tuesday morning, forgive me. So I mentioned earlier that on Tuesday morning, we're already going to have some rain showers. So when you're headed out the door, you're going to want the rain gear, you're going to want the umbrella. But there's also going to be pretty overcast conditions across the state. Now, the warm sector of the overall storm system that's setting us up for the severe weather is going to kind of be pushing that warm front north into Tuesday morning. Really what that's doing is helping increase the moisture, helping things get warmer, kind of priming the atmosphere for that severe weather. But as long as we have these clouds in place place and some of this rain to kind of cut some of that energy. That's going to help us for Tuesday afternoon and evening. So playing this forward a little bit into middle day Tuesday, you're starting to see some of these yellows now. Things are starting to heat up a little bit, but because we've been seeing that rain already in the morning along with some of that cloud cover, things that'll kind of try to help things not get too explosive. Now, as we play this forward a little more, 2:30 around the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to start to see more of that yellow shifting into central Arkansas, kind of almost over the Pulaski County area and like the central third of the state. So these yellows and maybe even some oranges that you can see on some of that low resolution data will kind of indicate some of those stronger storms. But again, as we saw earlier, around this time, the instability is going to be off to our east. So we've got a lot of things that I'm throwing at you, but the bottom line is there is going to be the potential there for some of those spicy storms. But what's really helping us is the rain already starting overnight Monday into Tuesday, those clouds kind of keeping the lid on from things getting super explosive. And as we continue through the day in this actual cold front, the cold side of the system sweeps through, that's going to cut off some of our moisture. So you see playing this forward by 6 o'clock. If you're in west central Arkansas, even northwest Arkansas at that point, the threat for severe weather will be moving behind you. You could still see some showers, but the concerns for severe weather is going to still be concentrated over eastern Arkansas, those portions of the state closing in on the Mississippi River. Now, bringing this forward a little bit more into Wednesday morning, could see a little bit of that wraparound moisture, bringing maybe a little bit of wintry weather up in the Ozarks and those higher elevations, but that threat for severe weather really moving out of the state by the time you're joining Tom, Faith, and Rowley on Tuesday night, as that kind of cold front is going to cut off some of that moisture. It's going to cut off some of that warmth, of course, and then with the sun setting as well too, that's going to kind of kill some of our instability.
When you say cold front, how cold are we expecting?
It's not really going to make that much of a difference on our temperature. So on Tuesday, where we can make a run at 70 degrees, by Wednesday, really only looking to hang out in the upper 50s, maybe even breaking into the lower 60s. So
seasonable, right?
Seasonable, not necessarily anything to be concerned about with winter weather. Where you see this pink and blue up in the Ozarks, that's just because those are those higher elevations. They tend to still see a little bit of wintry weather even into March, maybe sometimes April, because you're up in the mountains. I think for central Arkansas, this won't be another concern of that cold front sweeping through and bringing a dramatic cool down. In this case, it's just going to kind of cut off that moisture, kill a little bit of the ingredients needed for those strong storms.
Good to know. I was asking because I don't want to bring out the heavy coat again.
I can't speak for the whole month, but at least the week ahead, I don't think we'll need the heavy coat.
Good.
Definitely feeling more of that spring pattern. But also want to bring up you know, the safe places to go if you are under a tornado warning, because with the time frame of this, again, people might not necessarily be at home. If you're out in that school pickup line or you're trying to get off work, you know, you're probably wondering, well, where can I go for that safe spot? Obviously, your best options will be a storm shelter. Now, there are community storm shelters, I know, across central Arkansas. Now's a great time ahead of Tuesday, maybe reaching out or kind of going online, doing a Google search to figure out where your local storm shelter is located and if they'll be open on Tuesday. But if you are able to make it home, during this time frame, that interior closet, bathroom, or hallway that is on that lowest level of your home would be the safest. Now, if you happen to still be at school or at the office, same concept applies. You want to get to the lowest level, most interior room or closet you can find. The bottom line is you don't want any outside walls or outside windows attached to whatever room you're in, because you want to create as much distance between you and the outside world as possible.
And you know, sometimes people are living in apartment complexes and they're on second, third, fourth floors.
So if you live in an apartment complex in the second, third floor, this is a great time for community building. Make friends with your neighbors on the first floor. That was actually something I used to have to do in college. Make friends with your neighbors on the first floor, because when you have those severe days, you can text that friend or neighbor and say, hey, do you mind if we have a little severe weather party just for a couple hours, come hang out? So if that warning is issued, you could be on that lowest level, get to that interior room and find your safe space. Now, people that maybe live in mobile home communities, kind of urging you again to locate that local community storm shelter or contact a family or a family member or a friend that has a more stable home, a more secure home that you can be on that first floor to get to safety.
In the past, I've also heard under a staircase. That's a good spot typically.
Under a staircase, but you do have to make sure wherever that staircase is,
right,
there isn't that exterior wall or window. You still want to kind of create some distance between you and the outside world.
And I did want to bring up too, a lot of people think they don't have to take cover until they hear the tornado sirens outside. What's your advice on that?
So with the tornado sirens, you're going to hear that tornado siren if there is a severe thunder or a tornado warning at any point in your county. So the polygon, let me bring up a map of the state of Arkansas right quick. This is from the storm field graphic, but I'm bringing up this map for educational purposes. Let's say you have a polygon through central Saline County that cuts into northwestern Pulaski County. Little Rock necessarily isn't in the polygon, but Little Rock will still hear the sirens because the sirens are going off for the whole Pulaski County. Yeah. So don't necessarily wait for the sirens to take cover, especially if you're not necessarily in the polygon, or if you're in the polygon and the sirens aren't immediately going off, because the sirens going off also, I think that comes from like county officials and not weather officials. So there might be a delay sometimes with when you hear that siren. You don't want the siren to be your kind of last resort to finding safety. That's why we say it's important to have multiple ways to receive warnings.
Hey, and weather radios, we don't talk about those too much these days.
We don't talk about weather radios a lot, but they do still make weather radios. They're reliable. You know, if you lose power, you have those batteries, that weather radio is still going to work. Yep. You can take that with you to whatever closet or place you're going to seek shelter, and you can have the weather radio on one hand. If you have your phone charged, you can have our mobile app in the other hand, and our team, whoever is doing the coverage that day, whether it's myself or Nathan or Tom or Tracy, you'll be able to still hear those live updates from us as well.
And I'm glad we're doing this right now, because just giving you guys a heads up, we know to expect this during Tuesday afternoon. Charge the phones and computers ahead of time.
And I mean, again, Tuesday is considered day 4, so there is still room to change. By the time we get to Monday, we could very well not be under a hands risk, or we could see a moderate risk over some of Eastern. Or I don't want to get anybody on high alert or make anybody scared, but because there is room for this to change, that's why we're kind of starting early. So each day we can walk you through the changes. I mentioned earlier, we're going to do this again tomorrow with tomorrow's fresh data. Monday as well as Tuesday before the severe weather comes. Tom and Nathan going to do another stream on Monday. Tracy Tuesday morning. So each round of new data, we're going to be coming with these updates so you can kind of follow along with us as the forecast is changing. So by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, hopefully by that point you're already prepared. If you do get a watch issued in your area, you already know what to do. And then when that warning comes, you definitely already know what to do.
And I know that you showed the map of the storm moving through on Tuesday. It looked to be not a fast moving system. It looked to kind of take its time. It was hovering.
Also, yeah, I would say around that Tuesday into Tuesday afternoon into evening, that'll be a couple of hours out of the day. We'll still see some rain Tuesday morning, but this is also kind of moving a bit slower because of just the frame of the computer. But definitely at least expect maybe 4 to 6 hours of your day needing to be on alert for severe weather. Okay. I would say the further west you are, as early as noon, you see around the Mena, Texarkana, maybe even western portions of Hot Spring County and Garland County. As you continue through the afternoon, approaching the 3 o'clock hour into central Arkansas, starting to see more of those impacts that'll kind of carry us through evening. I think after dinner time, if you live in areas kind of west of the Little Rock Metro, things are going to be better. East of that, still needing to be on alert. So not necessarily the whole day, but a good chunk of your afternoon and evening. I know that's not really what you want to hear for the people that are commuting home from work and school, but a few hours out of your day, and we're hopefully setting you up days in advance to make sure you have the knowledge to stay safe on Tuesday.
I imagine already a lot of after school activities could probably get canceled.
Could probably see some after school activities canceled, and if this enhanced risk holds up by Monday, would not be surprised if we see some early dismissals from the schools, just so we don't have people getting caught out in it during those kind of commute times. But there's still time for this setup to change a bit. Right now, though, this is the latest. So if you kind of missed the beginning where we brought this map up, we're going to bring this back up again to show you where the greatest severe weather risk is. Now, the bullseye kind of over the eastern 2/3 of Arkansas, some of southwestern Tennessee, most of Mississippi into northern Louisiana. That's where you see that orange or enhanced risk. Now, the rest of that yellow, that slight risk, that still includes about 1/3 of the state. That northwestern 1/3 of the state, still make sure you're weather aware. The difference in color or the difference in the outlook does not mean you need to let your guard down. All it takes is one storm. I think I mentioned that earlier, and I think right now, the farther south you are and the farther east you are, you definitely want to make sure you're weather aware, because as we kind of mentioned earlier, that's where you'll see a little bit more of that instability, even with it limited from the clouds.
And just because we're saying all of this, it doesn't necessarily mean like this area will get a tornado,
yes,
right?
That does not necessarily mean
you
exactly will get a tornado. You know, even tornadoes come so frequently sometimes in the spring, we don't even realize how much goes into a tornado even forming. You almost need like the perfect recipe to actually get a tornado. So just because the ingredients are in place doesn't necessarily mean we'll see a tornado. I'm hoping that even if we have the enhanced risk, we get to Tuesday, no tornado warnings.
That is the hope.
That's what we always hope for. But you know, as the saying goes, plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's kind of what the purpose of this and what the next couple of days will be from our team, is just planning for the worst, hoping for the best, especially right now with the Little Rock Metro under an enhanced risk.
I know a lot of people are sensitive to this severe weather now, especially after March of 2023.
Especially as we're getting into the month of March. You know, the end of this month is going to be the 2-year anniversary of the big tornado that swept through central Arkansas. So a lot of people that still might have a little bit of storm anxiety behind that. We don't want you anxious. We just want you prepared.
And that's the whole reason why we're doing this days ahead.
Yeah, so we did reach out online to see if any viewers had any questions. It doesn't seem like we've had any viewer questions today, which a lot of people are celebrating Mardi Gras. I'm glad we were able to have a nice weekend with all of the festivities going. But if you are tuned in, we do appreciate you for tuning in. And again, we'll be doing this a little bit more over the coming days. Still have a couple minutes left. Is there any more questions you have for me, Brookie?
I'm trying to think. I mean, you covered a lot. I'm glad we touched on where to find safety in your home, warning versus a watch, tornado sirens. I'm trying to think of anything else. Flashlights and batteries. It's always good to have those backups
always
handy.
good to have flashlights, batteries. You know, a good severe weather kit includes those flashlights, those batteries. Honestly, a lot of people don't even realize like your important documents. Because let's say, God forbid, there is a tornado.
Right.
You need those important documents on hand, you know, especially your home deed and all of the things for insurance purposes, birth certificates, all of the things. Some water will be handy.
Yes.
Maybe even some food and snacks. So again, preparing for the worst. We talk about this every year, kind of what goes into your kit, the NOAA weather radio.
Yeah.
Would also be useful in that kit. Extra chargers. A lot of people don't think about that. Portable chargers.
That's a big one.
Some reliable shoes, you know, especially as we get warmer and warmer where people are wanting to wear more sandals. When you are expecting severe weather, specifically tornadoes, it's great to have closed-toe shoes handy, and something to protect your head, whether that's like a bike helmet or if
pillows.
Some people will take pillows, or I've even seen people go as far as taking a mattress to put over them while they sit in the bathtub.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
But you know, different things like that you might not necessarily keep next to you all the time when you're expecting severe weather. It's great to have those because, again, kind of going back to, God forbid there is a tornado, right. You need those closed-toe shoes when you're walking around because you don't want any debris to kind of cause an injury.
I wouldn't have thought of that, so I'm glad you mentioned that. But of course, you guys, this is worst-case scenario.
This is worst-case scenario. The great thing about this kind of setup versus previous setups, it's in the middle of the day versus at night as well.
Not the middle of the night.
There is the downside of the middle of the day where people might be outside and caught in it, but also in the middle of the day, if there is a tornado, you'll likely be able to see it a little bit easier. In the middle of the day, you're likely not asleep, you're up. So if you hear the sirens, you hear the warnings,
you know what
you're
to do.
able to take action a lot quicker and not necessarily be disoriented like you would in the middle of the night getting woken up by this.
I even see schools hold the kids. I know a lot of schools around here have tornado shelters.
Yeah, some schools might hold the kids or cancel school early. It's really over the next 48 hours as we approach Monday and we're able to get a better hammer down on the timing. A lot of schools are probably going to make their decisions of what the safest course of action is going to be with this.
Yeah, they'll probably decide that day of.
Yeah,
I would think.
But right now, again, this is kind of your first call heads up for Tuesday. We issued the THV 11 weather impact alert yesterday, but over the next couple of days between now and Tuesday, we're going to do more of these streams. Today, because it was still a bit far out, we wanted to make this a little bit more informal, more of a conversation between Brooke and I. Tomorrow, still informal, but a little more sciencey with just myself as we start to see more of that high resolution data rolling in. And then Monday, Tom and Nathan will tag team on the stream. Of course, that'll be 24 hours out. We'll definitely have more high resolution data available. And Tuesday morning, Tracy Bean after Wake Up Central likely going to give another update as well, kind of mere hours out where we'll definitely know for sure kind of what we're expecting through the rest of the day.
And you'll be doing this again tomorrow at 2, right?
Tomorrow at 2.
So
when you're getting out of church or brunch or whatever your Sunday plans are, where you're joining us now, we'll be here again tomorrow talking more about this. By that point, 72 hours out, we'll at least be able to see a little bit of information from our graph model, which is the graph and the HER, those two high resolution models we look at, but the HER only goes out 48 hours, the graph goes out 72. So at least by tomorrow evening, we'll start to get to see a little bit of information from the graph about what Tuesday is looking like.
I was wondering how often the radar will update itself for the models that you get in.
So each model we have, they have different time frames that they update, but those those low resolution, long range models like the Euro and the GFS, we're able to see that information a lot easier. So the model we were looking at earlier was the Euro, because it does tend to be a little bit more reliable than a GFS, but neither are as reliable as those high resolution models. So that's really what we're waiting on for more information tomorrow into Monday.
Good to know. So you heard her. Tune in. We're going to do this again and keep you guys informed.
And I mean, we're going to be back here tonight at 10 as well for a full newscast with news, sports, and weather. I'll have another update of the forecast. Obviously, it won't be as long as this. This was just to bring a little bit more in depth, because if you did watch our 6 o'clock show, you heard me mention there were a few factors that might help work out in our favor when it comes to this setup. So this kind of gave us an opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth about what those factors are and how exactly it could work in our favor.
And can we expect the whole Tuesday to have rain, or is there ever going to be a break in the rain?
I do think if we're able to see more rain all day Tuesday, that's going to work for our favor. So you might not necessarily want to see rain all day Tuesday, but if you're seeing that rain early in the morning, that's going to be more beneficial for the afternoon and evening ahead. If you're not seeing any rain and you see some sunshine, then you need to make sure you're getting your affairs in order to be prepared for the afternoon. So right now, based off of our Euro model, I'm going to move this forward a bit so we can see what the Euro model is saying again. So Tuesday morning, when you're headed out, looks like primarily the western 3/4 or 2/3 of the state likely seeing some rain. Even where it's not raining, still likely seeing those clouds. So all of this is going to work in our favor. Now, as we continue through the day, If we are able to see some breaks in the clouds again, that could be a different story. But right now it's looking like at least rain showers in the morning before it transitions to more of those storms in the afternoon.
Not fun to drive in, but hey, we don't want the ingredients to form a tornado.
Not the best to drive
Yeah.
in, but at least those showers wouldn't necessarily be as heavy of the downpours as we would see with some of those storms. So just make sure you have the umbrella handy.
Yeah.
Carve out extra time for your morning commute, not just your morning commute, but the afternoon commute as well, because that'll be when we're seeing the thunderstorm. So plan extra time for both those commutes on Tuesday. Have the rain gear handy. Have your severe weather plan in place. Have those multiple ways to receive warnings, and just make sure you're following along with our team over the next couple of days as this forecast evolves, because it will evolve. And when all those updates come, you'll be sure to get them from us.
And if you do end up under a tornado warning or a watch and you have your phone handy, you can stream us on THV 11 Plus.
And if you happen to lose power for whatever reason, because we mentioned earlier, it's going to be a pretty windy day.
Yeah.
Even outside of those thunderstorms, it's going to be a pretty windy day. Sometimes wind can knock your power out. So the mobile app is still a great resource to have to just keep up to date with what's going on if you happen to lose power.
And keep the portable charger handy
Keep
so you
those
can
portable
still
chargers
access
handy.
us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you did join us this evening, we appreciate all of you. Make sure you join us again tonight at 10 on THV 11 on air and on the streaming app THV 11 Plus for all your latest news, weather, and sports. Have a great evening.